Hashem, everything is known to him, not in the way of his labshus. Everything is yadua. He's automatically known. He's not investing himself in order to know anything. He doesn't change anything, doesn't add knowing anything. It's part of him. Knowing everything is part of knowing himself. It's known to him. Known. It's not that he has to know. It's known. Today is Yud, the 10th of Adar Sheini, page Kuf Pei Hei. In the old edition, it's the end of Kuf Lamed Tes. We are talking about the Eish Milemaila that is Shayach to the Nefesh HaBahamis, that is meant to inspire the Nefesh HaBahamis. There is Eish Shelemata, which is based on our Hisboinenus, and there is also Eish Milemaila. What is the Eish Milemaila? Eish Milemaila is the Hisboinenus on the bitul of the Malachim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How they get so excited and inflamed with their wish to be included and subsumed in Elokus, in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when they realize each one according to his greatness, each one according to their level of the Malachim. Why Dafka the Malachim? And Neshama is known to be higher than Malachim, because the Malachim are the shoresh, the spiritual shoresh of the Nefesh HaBahamis. And therefore, when the Nefesh HaBahamis is contemplating of the bitul of the Malachim, how they are inflamed with their desire to be subsumed in Or Havaya that is shining upon them, then this Or Ha'ava will shine upon the desiring energy of the Nefesh HaBahamis to withdraw its interest from the Tainugim of Olam Hazeh and be all invested in the divine Tainugim. So really the Eish Milemaila is that hispilus of the Malachim with their Rishpei Esh, with their flames of fire, through his Boinanus in their source. Their Hisboinanus, which inspires our Hisboinanus, is made out of two parts. Number one, realizing what their source is, in that case, Malchus of Atzilus, and the other one, and what it means, and what's the relation. And the other one is Be'ofen Ishavusam, the way they are coming to existence, Yesh Me'ayin. And then the Rebbe began a whole discussion of a mashal of Or HaShemesh to explain to us the inyan of creation, of creating Yesh Me'ayin, and that is the way the Oilamos, the worlds, are coming to existence. And that is different than the Yesh Mi-Yesh, which is usually what we create. When we create, there is a Yesh already, and we just change its form. And the outcome is totally different than the outcome and the consequences of the creation of Yesh Me'ayin. So now that Ruchama joined us, we can go to her review questions, and thank you for that. The Rebbe describes the Ziv of the sun versus the Kli maker in terms of, number one, attachment to its source, number two, its sense of newness, number three, the shleimus towards its maker. In the complex process of the creation Yesh Me'ayin versus Yesh Mi-Yesh, how are these processes different from each other?
So as you just said, I think it's like when a person makes an object, right? Once it does it, it's separate from me. He doesn't need it to be, it's completely independent from it. And it doesn't have to come back to give it chayus all the time.
That's
it's completely, that's it.
That's Yesh Mi-Yesh.
Right. So in the R, no, he's the Ziv is really only a reflection, only a part of the Atzmut, and it's really part of the, like you just said, at the level of Malchus. So it's really not at all separate. In terms of there's such a oneness and Vikus to the source, but what we get is really, really like a very external reflection that comes to us, right? And
Right.
also, it can not exist without it. It has to always be in Dvikus. He did the whole paragraph on Dvikus to the source. Without it, there's no Chayus, and then we really don't exist.
Right.
That's how I understood it.
Right.
And also, the material, like you need the clay to make the clay here. It's such a Dvikus. It's not separation like the clay that's separate that you build a life. And also, there's a shlemus in term once the person did, if it's only a piece of clay, there's no shlemus for the person who did it. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't get completed. It's like, there's not a sense of shlemus to the person who created, which is...
Right. In a case of creating a yesh mi-yesh,
right.
The outcome, the yesh that is created, has elements in it that the maker doesn't have. The koach hapoal, the creator, the creating power doesn't have. Because the creating power doesn't have the actualization of the kli with the toeles that it brings, with the benefit that it brings. That doesn't exist in koach hapoal. So we see that the keli that is created, yesh mi-yesh, adds shleimus, as you're saying, adds completion and wholeness to the maker, to the creative power. This is not the case in terms of Or.
So we don't add anything to Hashem. A person doesn't complete his vision of the object until the object is already done.
Right.
Right? But it's not Hashem for Hashem, whether we exist or not, doesn't add to his or take from his shlemus. Right?
Especially in the light of what we learned in the beginning of Hemshech Samech Vov, that Lemaila ein koyach chaser poal. That Lemaila potential doesn't miss the actual. Lemata, as we just discussed, the potential misses the actual, and the actual completes the potential. Lemaila, the potential is actualized. The potential doesn't miss the actual. The only thing that is different, that it does miss, is the imperfections of the actuals, of the actualized, of creation, the imperfections, the flaws, that the Maila doesn't have, and the limitations it doesn't have. But all the Mailas of the Yesh are already in the Koyach. All the Mailas of the Pol are already in the Koyach. So the Maila Koyach eino chaser Pol. The Koyach doesn't miss the Pol. The potential doesn't miss, is not lacking the actual. Lemata, down here, the potential lacks the actual. And only, as you say, when the actual is actualized, then the potential is complete. So what do we see? We see that there are two opposite things. First of all, in terms of what we said so far. So in terms of yesh mi-yesh, there is no ischadshus really.
In the object when we do.
There is no ischadshus because it's just changing form.
Where yesh me'ayin there is a new.
Yes. Okay. At least to the recipient, at least to the yesh, to the creation, it's definitely a chidush. Okay, very good. What I began to say, that we see two opposite things. That on one hand, there is total dependency. In yesh me'ayin, it's like the ray of the sun, which is totally dependent on its source, on the sun. And the moment you interfere between the ray and the ray disappears. So on one hand, creation totally depends on the source, and at the same time, it is totally insignificant. Which means it doesn't add any shleimus, doesn't add anything. So it's totally insignificant. That's the two opposites. Anyhow, let's go back to the other question. 4. What does the word והנברא שאין לו סיבה אחרת לזולתה? Okay. How does this bonus on these terms above affect our own relation to our own creator? Okay. The Rebbe is talking about what we say that is Habus Anivraim from Hashem, as we describe, as the Rebbe gives the mashal of the Ziv from the Shemesh, the radiance that comes out of the sun, the rays of the sun. So the bittul of the Nivraim by Hashem is like the bittul of the Ziv HaShemesh in comparison to the Shemesh, to the sun itself. So the Rebbe says, what makes this bittul absolute is that the ray has no other cause but, and a reason, but its source, but the sun. When a person makes a kli, though, the person is not the only cause and the reason for the kli. The person is only the cause of the shape of the kli. But the matter of the kli is separate from the person. And therefore this kli has another siba, another reason besides the maker of the kli. And that's the material that it is made of. And therefore the kli is not battle to the person at all. The creation that the person makes is not battle to the person, but the ray of the sun is battle to the sun. Why? Because the kli is metzius davar by itself. And it doesn't need the person to exist. It's its own material. The person just shapes it. But the ray of the sun is completely depending on the source because, and therefore the ray of the sun is the mashal for the Nivraim, and the Nivraim have no cause other than him Yisbarach. And therefore we are totally battled to Hashem. Like the rays of the sun that have no other cause than the sun are totally battled and depending on the sun. And they are not something separate by itself. And that's the avoida. That's the avoida. And the bittul that does, there are very ways to reach that bittul, and the Rebbe is guiding us now through the Isboinenus that is shayach to the bittul of the Nefesh HaBahamis. But now the Rebbe is going further. Okay. On page Kuf Pei Hey, the line that starts B'chol HaMadregos, the Ratzon B'Sechel. It's like a fourth from the beginning of the page. B'chol HaMadregos, the Ratzon B'Sechel, and the end of the parentheses. Aval Mikol Makom. Now, until now, the sun and the rays of the sun were a mashal to understand how in Yesh Me'ayin creations are depending so much on Hashem as their source. Dvar Hashem. Now the Rebbe will say, well, there is a huge difference between the mashal, which is the sun and its rays, and Hashem and Or Ein Sof and creations. אבל מכל מקום, nevertheless, לא נערוך כלל הסהבוס, please mute yourself, לא נערוך כלל הסהבוס הנבראים ממנו יסברך, לומר שהוא כמו הסהבוס הזיו מהשמש. Now, after we made the comparison between Hashem as the source, Elokus as godliness as the source of creation, and the sun is the source of light, the Rebbe says that really there is no comparison between the two. You cannot compare the coming to existence of the Nivraim to the coming to existence of the Ziv, the ray from the sun. Why? שהרי הזיו הוא מעין מהות השמש ממש. Because the radiance of the sun, the rays of the sun, are similar to the material of the sun itself. The sun is a shining thing, the shining object, and the rays are made of the same material. ונמצא הזיו ממש בהשמש באופן כמו שהוא בסגלוס אחר כך. And therefore, you find that the rays of the sun, the ziv, the radiance of the sun, is really the same thing that you can find in the sun itself. That in the sun is the same thing, it's mamash there, as it is when it's misgale, that it reveals itself out of the sun. אחר כך. ואין מה שכתוב לקמן בעניין כללוס האור אינסוף שלפני הצמצום, איך שאינו דומה למשל אור וזיו השמש. Later on in a further mimer, כי עמך מקור חיים, we will learn about it more. והרי זה, which means the ziv, really, now if you compare now the shemesh to godliness, the sun to godliness, regarding the sun, the creation of the rays of the sun from the sun is really yesh miyesh. Because the rays of the sun exist in the sun also. לא כן יסבוס הנברא ממנו יזברך. You cannot say it by Hashem that you can find the nivraim in Or and Sof. Big difference. שאין ארוך נברא לבורא. There is incomparability, אין ארוך, no comparison between the nivra, the created, and the creator. In the sun, the mashal of the sun, there is definitely aroch, there is erech, there is a comparison, there is a relation between the sun and its rays. Basically, the rays are made of the same stuff of the sun. It's yesh v'yesh, really. But creations coming from Or and Sof, you cannot say that you can find creations in Or and Sof, ein aroch. They're completely incomparable. Or and Sof is completely formless, completely has no form whatsoever, not only a physical form, doesn't have a spiritual form. הרי זה יסהבוס יש מאין. So when the sun creates the rays, so to speak, it has to, it's created like that. But let's say when the sun creates the rays, it's yesh meyesh. But when Elokus creates nivraim, it's yesh me'ayin. Me'ayin va'efes hamuchlat. From an absolute not N-O-U-G-H-T, I think. G-H. והיינו שגם החיוס המחייס הנברא הוא בבחינס יש מאין. Even the chayus that animates the creation, which is not God, it's an aspect of God that creates. It's not God himself. But even that chayus is יש מאין. וגם לגבי מקורו הכלול בהמאור, and this is its condition, the way even the makor is included in the luminary. וכידוע, is known, שהחיוס כשמחייס הנברא, הרי הוא בבחינת יש. The chayus, when it animates the creation, is like a yesh. It has to have some definition. It has to have a yesh because it relates to a yesh. וכאשר כלול במקורו, הרי הוא בבחינת עין. But when it is in its source, complete עין, complete, עין ואפס המוחלט. וכמו שכתוב מזה, we will learn more about it. But this is a big difference, that the rays of the sun are existing in the sun too. The Nivraim, no shape, no way, no form, nothing, exist in Or and Sof. כמו שכתוב מזה בליקוט התורה, דיבור המסחיל תקעו הבייס, the second mimer there. So even the chayus that runs in our system is yesh me'ayin, doesn't exist in godliness. It's also a yesh comparing to godliness. Yesh me'ayin. Umikol sheken, how much more so guf nivra, the body of the nivra, not only every creation is made of two aspects, the chayus, the life force, and the body. Even spiritual nivraim, they have a certain form and a certain nefesh. So the chayus is yesh me'ayin, and how much more so, says the Rebbe, the gufa nivra, shu bivchinas yesh me'ayin, completely yesh me'ayin. It's a yesh that comes out of nothingness, complete nothingness. וכמו על דרך משל, יסהבוס גשמיוס עולם הזה ממנו יתברך. Like it's easier for us to understand regarding the physical world. How the physical world is created from Hashem יתברך. הרי גשמיוסו אין ארוך לרוחניוס כלל. The gashmius of the world is completely incomparable to the ruchnius of the world. That we can understand. והרי זה ישחטשוס יש מאין. So certainly the gashmius, the guf הנברא is ישחטשוס יש מאין, complete יש מאין. ומכל מקום, nevertheless, הזיו המחייס הנבראים, והוא המקיימן בכל רגע, שמבלדו הנבראים הם בבחינס אפס. וכידוע שבאמת כל מציאוס הנבראים הוא העין האלוקי המהווה אותם ומחיה אותם כולו. הרי זיו זה וגם עצם הנבראים כלול במקור אין סוף ברוך הוא כנ"ל, וביסר סס ויסר עוז כולו. וממילא הרי אין יסגלוס הזיו מוסיף חס ושלום שום שלימוס כלל באין סוף ברוך הוא. So that is, to conclude what we already, the Rebbe would have said already. And just to come to it from this all-inclusive angle, that nevertheless, so it's on one hand, it's yesh me'ayin. On the other hand, says the Rebbe, this ziv, this radiance from Elokus that creates and animates all creations and brings them to existence every moment, without which the Nivraim are nothing, non-existence, and as known that really, in truth, the whole Metzius of the Nivraim is the divine Ain that brings them to existence. We do not have our own existence at all, none of us, even the spiritual, the higher worlds. What about this Ziv? What about this animating radiance from Elokus and creative radiance of Elokus? הרי זיו זה וגם עצם הנבראים. Side the Ziv, the radiance that creates and animates us, and side the Nivraim themselves are included in the source. Nobody went out anywhere. We are included in Ein Sof. And as we learned already, Be'eser says Be'eser Oz. In Ein Sof, when we are included in the source, we have no limitations. When we are out of the source, so to speak, we are limited, at least in our experience. But when we are in the source, we have no flaws, we have no limitations. So Yeter says Yeter Oz Mimele. Since we are in the source, and in the source we are in the most powerful way that we could be, without the chesroinus of Nivraim, then this is galus of the Ziv. This galus of this creative power doesn't add any shleimus to the infinite. Doesn't make a difference, because it's there all the time in its shleimus, pefe'ein koach chaser po'al. V'im ken, and if this is the case, לעניין ביטול הנברא לאין סוף ברוך הוא, לא פחות הוא ממשל וערך ביטול זיו השמש בשמש. Regarding the ביטול of the creation to Ein Sof, it's not less, it's definitely more and not less than the mashal and the erech of the bitul of the ray of the sun in the sun itself. It's even more. שהביטול הוא בבייס דברים, says the Rebbe. The bitul is in two things. Number one, שהזיו צריך תמיד להמאור, ואינו יש בפני עצמו. So number one, we are similar to the rays of the sun. That the Ziv, the rays of the sun, always need the luminary, the source, and that do not have any existence, separate existence. So too the Nivraim constantly need our source, and we do not have a separate existence. Ve'habes, and the second aspect of this bitul is, שגם בהמאור לא יחסר אפילו השלימוס שיש בהזיו. That even in the source, nothing is lacking. When we talked about yesh miyesh, how we make a keli, how a person makes a keli, the source is lacking In the Koach HaPo'al, it's lacking what the Keli has, as we said. The Keli has a to'eles. The Keli, when it's made, it has a benefit. The Koach HaPo'al, the creative power, doesn't have it. It only gets it when it makes the Keli. Then it becomes complete. But by Hashem, en Koach Chaser Po'al. And therefore, Gam Ba'Ma'or, even in the Ma'or, before this galus of the Or, the Shleimus, the Ma'or doesn't miss anything and doesn't lack anything that the Or can add. מלבד מה שמרוס המאור משובח ושלם לאין שיעור מהזיו. Not only that, this is besides the fact that in the source, the quality is way, way more perfect and whole and complete than when it comes out of the מאור. שזהו שלמוס אחר. There is a difference between the shlemus of Or and the shlemus of Ma'or. There is a difference between the shlemus, the perfection of radiance, and the perfection of etzem, of the source. Is a greater shlemus, obviously. והיינו השlemus והיתרון שיש בעצם על הער. There is a shlemus, a greater shlemus, that the etzem has over the ha'ara from the etzem, obviously. הנה גם מהות השלמות שיש בהזיו. בנמשל היינו עניין 10 ספירוס, כמו שהסבאר לקמן בעניין הנוטה האוזן, השלמות שבזה גם כן לא נחסר במאור. Bottom line is that even the shlemus that you can find in the light, in the ziv, in the rays, like the keli, you can find something that the keli has that the maker of the keli doesn't have until he makes the keli. It is not the case regarding the source, the infinite, and the divine. הנה גם מהות השלמות שיש בהזיו, גם כן לא נחסר בהמאור. The mahus of the shlemus, the completion, the ultimate expression and fulfillment and manifestation that you can find in the Gilui is not missing at all in the source. Which means, in this case, that what is the Ziv in this case, in the Nimshal, would be the 10 spheros. That you can find the 10 spheros are already the building blocks of creation, and you can find the 10 spheros, the source, which means Or and Sof before the Tzimtzum, is not missing the 10 spheros. You cannot find specific 10 spheros there, but it's not missing them. It has a shlemus which is greater that includes that shlemus as well. In any case, שהרי גם הזיו ממש ישנו בהמאור ביסר סס ממה שהוא על הארץ. That even the rays of the sun are present in the sun itself way stronger than they can find them in the universe. והדוגמה מזה הוא ביטול הנבראים לגבי אין סוף ברוך הוא. And the analog is the ביטול of the נבראים to the infinite. שיש בביטול זה בייס דברים. That in the ביטול of all creations to their source, there are two elements. האחד שצריכים תמיד להערסו יזבח, ואינם בבחינת מציאוס בפני עצמם. The first is that all creations need the radiance from Hashem to exist, and they are never in existence by themselves. We never have an independent existence. והבייס, and the second is, שגם בהמאור אין סוף ברוך הוא לא נחסר בו, חס ושלום, מכל מיני שלמות שיש בהביאה. And the second point of it is that in the source, nothing is missing. All kinds of shlemus that you can find in Abiyah, in the worlds, in Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, you can find them in a way greater shlemus in the source as well. וישנם שם ממש כמו שהזיו ישנו במאור. And they are there mamash, the way the ziv of the sun is found in the sun. And now the Rebbe is making a comment. ועניין הביטול של הנבראים בזה הוא, next page, שאינם מוסיפים שום שלמוס באין סוף ברוך הוא, ואינם עושים שום שינוי חס ושלום. So the Rebbe says that the ביטול of the נבראים, we can understand the absolute, so to speak, the all-encompassing bittul of the Nivraim, in this, that the Nivraim do not add any shleimus in Ein Sof. They do not add, do not make any change, any addition. ואינם עושים שום שינוי חס ושלום. The Nivraim do not make any difference, any change in Ein Sof, in the source. ומצד הנבראים, אנו שאינם תופסים כלל להוסיף דבר במציאוסם. Some, from the Nivraim's aspect, they can add nothing to the Ein Sof by their existence. ונמצא, the base מיני ביטול הם. So we find, let me just finish reading and then we can do a little iyun here. ונמצא, the base מיני ביטול הם. ושני עניינים הפכים. So we find that there are two kinds of bitul here. Help me to figure that out, please. ושני עניינים הפכים. We have two opposite עניינים here. דמה שצריכים תמיד להערס או יסברך, הרי זה בחינס קירו ושייכוס אל הנבראים. That what we need constantly, the Ara from Hashem to exist, that an indication of how intimately and how close the Creator is to the Nivraim. If we are so absolutely depending on the Creator, our connection is so intimate and so intense. ומכל מקום, nevertheless, אינם תופסים מקום כלל להוסיף איזה שלמוס חס ושלום. At the same time, nevertheless, they do not play any role, or they do not have any significance, or take any space, not conceptually, certainly not literally, to add any shlemus in the source. Shnei minem bitul hem. Two kinds of bitul. One that we need the Ar of Hashem constantly, that's the closeness, and at the same time, we are completely insignificant. In other words, you're saying here that the Rebbe didn't say two dargos of bitul, so I'm a little afraid to say it like that. He didn't say two levels, he said quality. Two kinds. But
quality.
In the way you're saying, these are two levels. It's almost like Yechud HaIlah and Yechud HaTata. The Yechud HaTata is that we exist, but we're totally depending on Hashem. That's like the rays that are totally depending on the source all the time.
Okay.
And the Yechud HaIlah is that we are totally insignificant. We don't matter at all. We do not make any difference. We don't change. Our existence doesn't make any impact and any change in the infinite. So it's like that needs a little. Like it's the two opposite kind of bitul in terms of the quality. One is so close and intimate,
right?
The dependency, and the other one is so far and insignificant. Like it's
right.
The one is so close, so dveikus, and the other one is ein aroch, incomparability, like complete insignificance.
Yeah.
Two different kinds of bitul as well. Let's read a few more. The one that lent a ear would not hear. Im yotzer ayin halo yabit, the one that creates an eye, forms eye, cannot look. The lichora tamuha. Seemingly, it's a question here. Mi hu ksil kazeh sheyomar she'anota ozen lo yishma. Who is such a fool to say that the one that creates the ear doesn't hear? Who is the fool who would say that? That David HaMelech has to say in Tehillim that the one that creates ear doesn't hear, the one that creates an eye doesn't see. עד שהוצרך הכתוב להוציא מסברה זו, until the pasuk has to contradict such an assumption. אך העניין, but the idea is as follows, כי לכאורה יש סברה לומר, because seemingly there is a logic to say, כיוון שהבורא יסברך מרומם ונשגב מהנבראים, since the Creator, blessed be Him, is very exalted and way higher and removed from the creations, אם כן אינו שייך כלל לתאר בו השלימוס של יש בנבראים. And if this is the case, it's not at all, doesn't apply, if he is so far and so exalted, it doesn't apply to define God as owning any shleimus that you can find in the Nivraim. That since God is so higher than us, how can you see that God sees or God hears? He's not a person. You're lowering, that's an insult. He's so high. וראיית העין ושמיעת האוזן זהו מעלת הנבראים, אבל בבורא יזברך אין לתאר בחינות אלו. The seeing of the eye and the hearing of the ear, this is the mila of creations. But the creator, you can't describe him owning, possessing such aspects. The Rebbe says it's not true. באמת, the truth is, הרי הוא יתברך יודע ומשגיח על כל פרט ופרט. The truth is that God knows and supervises, oversees each and every detail. אלא, however, but, שיש בזה הפרש, אם הוא בבחינת יודע לידוע, as we learned already. How does Hashem know every part? In a manner of Yodea or Yadua? Is it Yodea, like we need to know something outside of ourselves, that we need to invest our mind, the Korach Hadas, and now to learn about something or someone that is outside of ourselves, and now it will add something to ourselves? And we are engaged and caught up when we try to know and to find out. Hashem, everything is known to him, not in the way of his labshus. Everything is Yadua. He's automatically known. He's not investing himself in order to know anything. He doesn't change anything, doesn't add knowing anything. It's part of him. Knowing everything is part of knowing himself. It's known to him. Known. It's not that he has to know. It's known. The Yodea הוא בבחינת islabshus. Yodea, to know, means that he has to invest himself. וידוע אינו בבחינת islabshus. But when something is known to him, it's not, he is not invested. It just comes up to him, to his knowing. וכמו שכתוב בזה בתור האור, דיבור המשכיל ירדנה. We already learned about it. You can learn it but much more in תור האור. בדרך כלל הוא ההפרש בין 10 ספירוס דאצילוס ובין ההשגחה ל10 ספירוס הגנוזות, כמו שכתוב במקום אחר. בדרך כלל, generally, is the difference between the two revealed, the 10 revealed, the two kinds of spheros, the 10 revealed spheros of Atzilus, and the Ashgacha of the 10 spheros, the way they are gnuzos in Or and Sof. Okay. ולזה בא הכתוב לומר, כי האומנם אמת נכון הדבר. And for this, David HaMelech comes to answer such an assumption. It's true, says David HaMelech. נכון הדבר, it's true, שהבורא נשגב ומרומם לבדו ואין ארוך לו כלל. That the creator is a higher and is removed and is by himself and nothing is comparable to him. אין ארוך. דכולה קמי כלא חשיבי. And everything is totally insignificant to him. Comparison to him. True? אבל, however, מכל מקום, nevertheless, כיוון שהוא יוצר ובורא בחינת עין ואוזן, since he is the one that creates the עין, the eye, and he is the one that creates the ear. אם כן, השלימוס שיש בכוחוס אלו, פשיטה שהם כלולים ונמצאים בו גם כן. And this is the case, if he creates the eyes and the ears, the shleimus, the maila, the virtue that can be found in seeing and hearing is not lacking in him, obviously. And they are included in him as well. So you cannot say that there's no hearing or seeing by God. רק, only, שהוא בדרך נפלא יותר לאין קץ. That when it comes to the way God sees, it is in a wondrous way that is we have no understanding of how God sees. It's the nifla, it's like a pele, it's like a wonder. It ain't case, infinitely higher. וידוע דלמעלה, and by the way, says the Rebbe, it doesn't say like me by the way, but he said it's known that you can find eyes and ears in the spiritual worlds as well. And these eyes and ears in the spiritual worlds are the supervising agents. They are the overseers of creation, the agents of Hashem. The למעלה בחינת עין ואוזן הם מלאכים. למעלה, in the spiritual worlds, עין ואוזן, eye and ear, so they are angels that are called Mared Ashgachusa. They are the masters of the Ashgacha of Hashem, the divine overseeing of Hashem. כמו שכתוב, עיני Hashem, אוזני Hashem. There are expressions like this in the Tanakh. The eyes of Hashem, the ears of Hashem. וכמו שכתוב מזה בתור האור, דיבור המסחיל ירדנה. We should learn this מאמר. It shows up too many times. ירדנה in Torah Or. When Hashem says, let me see, and see haketsa'akata, when he said, let me go down and see what's going on in Sodom. Is it so bad as the cry that I hear? Erdana, I will go down. Uve'atzilus, so in Biyah, the eyes and ears of Hashem are certain malachim, that are the angels of Hashgacha Pratis. In Atzilus, the eyes and the ears of Hashem are Chochmah and Bina. Chochmah is seeing and Bina is hearing. In Spheros is Chochmah and Bina, also eyes of Hashem and ears of Hashem. So Hashem has ears and eyes, but not our ears and eyes. שנקרא ראייה ושמיעה. Chochmah and Bina are seeing and hearing. Mental seeing and hearing. וכל זה שייך בהאור וזיו מאיתו יתברך. That all this applies to Or and Sof, to the Or and the Ziv from Hashem. ובזה דווקא שייך מציאוס הספירוס. In Or and Sof is שייך the מציאוס of the ספירוס, חוכמה, בינה וכולו, כמו שכתוב elsewhere, במקום אחר. אמנם, להיות שהאור והזיו כלול באין סוף ברוך הוא. Since, so Or Hashem can have all kinds of things, can have levels. Light can have levels too. Essence doesn't have levels, but light can have, Ma'or doesn't have levels, light can have levels. And light can have all kinds of things, including Einei Hashem and Oznei Hashem, on many levels. Whether it's our ears, or Malachim, or Chochmah and Bina, the higher you go, the higher the eyes and ears are. However, don't forget that, says the Rebbe, that this light, Or and Sof, that does have the ears and eyes, is included in Ein Sof Baruch Hu. This Or is included in the Ma'or, right? Nothing came out of God. In our experience, it feels like we came out of our source. But in his experience, nothing came out. There's nothing outside of God. And not milvado, right? Not even between you and me, and nothing is but him. But certainly nothing outside of him. So therefore, ha'or va'aziv kalul be'ein sof baruch hu. The or and the ziv that has the eyes and the ears is included in Ein Sof. Lazos, יש שם גם כן בחינת 10 ספירות הגנוזות במאצילן. Therefore, you have to say that the 10 spheros are also in Ein Sof. Because the Or is in Ein Sof, in the source. So you have to say that the 10 spheros which are in the Or are also in Ein Sof. אלא שהם נעלים ונפלאים ביותר. But in Ein Sof, they're in such an exalted way that it's very, very high. כמו שכתוב במקום אחר, ההפרש בין 10 ספירות הגנוזות ל10 ספירות הגלויות. Like we learned before, the difference between the revealed 10 spheres, we learned it in Sha'ar HaYichud actually. We learned the difference between the 10 revealed spheres in Atzilus and the 10 hidden spheres, the way they are still included in Or and Sof, whether they're in Akudim or in Ak, and even before that. שהחילוק between the hidden spheres and the revealed spheres הוא בעצם מציאותן, is how do they exist, שאינם בבחינס מציאות ממש. It's ממש an existential difference, that in Atzilus the 10 spheres ממש exist. And in Or and Sof, when they are still in potential, when they are still included in Or and Sof, they don't have a yesh of spheres, they're not as They don't have a mitzius of spheros yet. ובבחינת ההסקללוס שבהם, how much they are one with Or Ein Sof, and also one with each other. They are all one. The less revealed spheros are, the more part of Ein Sof they are, the less separate they are, the less existence they have, and therefore the more one they are. They're not 10. The higher you go, the less you see the division, because it's all one. וזהו שהשלמות שבהזיו יש בעצמוס. And this means that the shlemus that you find in the light, which means everything that the light owns, of course you will find that shlemus in עצמוס. להיות שהזיו כלול בו, because the ziv, the light, is included in the source. ובזהו שאנו מדמין את ישהבוס הנבראים לישהבוס הזיו מן השמש. And in this, we compare the coming to existence of the created beings to the coming to existence of light out of the sun, the rays out of the sun. And next time we'll learn about the third element. Actually, let's do it now. We have another 4 minutes. Now the Rebbe will add one more little paragraph, the third aspect of this bitul. So 2 elements were, one, how intimately we depend, the dveikus. 2 is how insignificant and shinui we are, and not making a difference. And the third one is omnam od ba shlishis, expression of Tehillim. Not Tehillim, I'm sorry. Yeshayahu Vav. Bebitul hanivraim etzlo yitbarach, regarding how the nivraim are battled to Hashem. Ma she'ein bebitul ziv hashemesh legabe hashemesh. You cannot find that in the bitul of the light of the sun to the sun. In that mashal you cannot find it, in the metaphor. Vehu, what is it? מה שהנבראים, וכמו כן החיוס, כמו שבא בהסגלוס להיות בבחינס חיוס, אין ארוך כלל אצלו יזברך. מלבד מה שאין ארוך הגבול לגבי אין סוף, עוד זאת, שעצם מציוסם הוא באין ארוך לגבי מקורם. והיינו, מה שישהבוסם הוא בבחינס יש מאין באין ארוך. מה שאין כן בביטול זיו השמש לגבי השמש, לא ייתכן לומר כן שהרי שניהם בעלי גבול, וגם הזיו מעין המאור ולא בעין ארוך. So the third, we mentioned it, but the third aspect is, cannot find in the metaphor. Why? Because the chayus that creates and animates everything, even when it comes to be revealed as the highest of the creations, is completely incomparable to Hashem, not only in a sense that Ein Aroch, there is no comparison between Gvul and Bli Gvul. That's one thing, that there is no comparison between limit and unlimited, between finite and infinite. Odzos, that their own existence is in no comparability to the source. Why? Because their hishavus is in the manner of yesh me'ayin be'ein aroch, which means they come completely from non-existence. It's not only the difference between infinite and finite. The difference between the infinite and finite is infinite, but it's not as big as the point that the creation is done. And if we remember, I mentioned in the beginning of the shiur that the malachim, that how do we inspire the nefesh habahamis? By telling her how the malachim are contemplating on their source in 2 ways. One is, what is that source? Malchus of Atzilus, and how higher it is. And number 2, how they are created yesh me'ayin. That means that they come completely out of nothingness. It's not just the difference between gvul and bli gvul. מה שאין כן בביטול זיו השמש לגבי השמש, The bittul of Ziv HaShemesh, the light of the sun to the sun, you cannot say that it's Yesh Me'ayin, because they are both finite. Both finite. So there's no Yesh Me'ayin the way the sun has its light in the sun. It's not Yesh Me'ayin, they are both finite. The sun is finite and its rays are finite. וגם, and also, הזיו מעין המאור ולא בעין ארוך. And the ziv is also like the sun, so there are two elements. One is that both of them are finite, and therefore you cannot find this incomparability in creations, in any metaphor that you use to explain the incomparability between our source of life and God. You can't compare. Number two, גם הזיו מעין המאור ולא בעין ארוך. That not only that both of them are finite, but also the ziv is similar to the shemesh. It's made out of the same stuff. And we are completely coming out of completely ayin, completely non-existent. Nothing of us was there before. So this is the extent of bitul that we need to contemplate on. And definitely we need to do some contemplation and reflection. And I'm including myself in this. And now the Rebbe will continue to show how these facts are affecting the spilus, the reaction of the malachim, the merkava, which are the source of chayos of the creations in our world, and the spiritual source of Nefesh HaBahamis. And therefore, the Nefesh HaBahamis, once it will meditate and reflect on the spilus, on the reaction of the malachim to the understanding of the Ein Aroch, how they are coming to existence from their source, that creates a bitul in the Nefesh HaBahamis, that the Nefesh HaBahamis is now recruited to pursue God only and not worldly interests.